So, focusing on your emotional state is a path to self destruction. So, let's start with understanding your base self. So, everyone has a base emotional state that's based on their quality of life and personality. And the common cause of panic for many traders is thinking that you need to be in peak performance state in order to follow a trade plan or system, right? And the reason why you don't need to be in peak performance state is that everybody has different levels of performance each day. You have your you can call it A performance, which would be peak performance. You have a B performance, which would be just below your peak performance, and then your C performance is your average performance, and then D, or you just call it F, which is when you just wouldn't go into the charts, right? So actually, all you need to be is functional, right? And you need to create something called a red flag zone, right? And the red flag zone is when you're being dysfunctional or destructive. You'll have days where you're just functional and you profit, and you have days where you're in peak performance and you take losses, right? And it doesn't mean that you need to break down your system and start again. I don't understand why. Well, it's not true. I understand why people tend to like break down their systems completely and then start all over from the top and go through this whole mental and emotional breakdown, which just damages your trading process, right? It's not worth it to do that. You have to focus on just your one model, and when you stray from it, come back to it, because behavior doesn't change in one go. You have positive behavior, and then you have negative behavior that slips up in it. You focus on the positive behavior, and over time, your negative behaviors will fall away, right? So just focus on doing the positive things. The one caveat, though, right, is that you should know what your red zone looks like and have a checklist or mental cue that tells you to walk away from your charts. Because the goal is that you don't focus on your emotions 24/7, but you have an automatic response to cutting the bad habits that you have so that you can focus on performing your good habits the best way that you can, right? So everyone thinks that 80% of trading is psychology, but it's really 80% preparation. And in preparation, I mean having a good trade plan, a good risk plan, a good trade management plan, having a way to study that is tailored to you, right? And following that prepared plan, right? Once you have that plan, it allows you to know where you're going and what the outcome you're seeking to achieve is, right? Whenever you deviate from this plan, don't blame your past, someone you interacted with, and beat yourself up about it. Just understand that you're learning, right? You're learning to get rid of bad habits, and you will improve over time incrementally, right? The problem with what stops people from doing this, though, is the fact that money is tied to this equation, and you have to allow yourself to know that you're going to lose some amount of money in your early days, managing and learning how to manage yourself and manage risk, right? So that you can improve in the future. Understand that you can only start from where you are now and build yourself up in the future, right? So forget about how you did badly last year, last month, last week. Understand that if you practice the right habits from now going forward, you will improve, and in the next year, you'll most likely be up in piano, right? And seeing that you can actually do this thing. So stop focusing on your emotional state to determine if you should take action. Risk requires bravery, and bravery is not the lack of fear. It is taking action, however imperfect, in spite of being afraid, right? Everything you do in life requires risk, right? When you approach a hot stove and you know that you're about to drop something that you're gonna fry in there, you know that oil is gonna pop up. You're scared, but you already know what the outcome is going to be, right? It's gonna pop up and you can move away and dodge it, but you know you're probably likely to get burnt. But you still do it in spite of being afraid, right? And that's a small task. Fear tends to really just be uncertainty. And the only way that you're able to divert from uncertainty is by putting in systems in place that produce predictable outcomes, right? And that is what you're essentially trying to do as a trader. So stop focusing on your emotional state to determine if you to take action, right? But still, as that caveat was there before, remember that you should be able to have a red zone that you don't enter the market. If you focus on how you feel and allow this to president over the desire to achieve a goal or task, you'll fall into an endless loop of self doubt and then attempt to eradicate it through investigation of self, right? And this breeds stagnation. So what I'm saying there is that whenever you focus on how you feel and then you take a loss, for example, and you say, "Oh, this loss made me feel this way. Why do I feel this way? I feel this way." And I remember the last time I felt this way was when my I got hit by my parent, and my parent hit me, and I felt shame and guilt. And this reminded me of a time when I felt shame and guilt. So I need to go and talk to my mom or my dad in order to figure this out, right? How will you ever change the past? You can't change the past. You can only understand that the present, right now, you need to change this behavior, and you will change this behavior in order to move forward, right? And the bad part about people telling us that trading is 80% psychology on a general whim, a general view. It's not 80% psychology, right? It's 80% learning how to manage your behavior, learning how to manage yourself. Psychology is just a general term for the functioning of the mind, right? That's not very specific as to what the issue is as with traders. It's behavioral modification. That would be the best thing for you to study, right? Um, I'm gonna recommend you guys some books to read up on that would help you understand in more relevant what I'm speaking on. And yeah, if you tell your brain that it's a problem, which is what psychology is the general function of your brain, and you're constantly telling your brain, "Oh, my psychology is a problem. My psychology is a problem," right? Your brain's going to attempt to solve the problem, and how your brain solves a problem is by deconstructing it, breaking it down, and then building it back up. And you break yourself down through negative self-talk, self-doubt, questions, right? And then you attempt to build yourself back up. And if you go through this process every single time you take a loss, how will you ever go forward? You're just constantly stagnating, right? So, do you see why this is a problem? It won't work. So, what would I focus on? Understand that trading isn't special. That once you have a model, plan, and rules that guide your behavior, you will have exact directions that you could follow that will create the outcome that you want over time. Therefore, you should put all your focus on executing your plan and ensuring that your signals for entry are accurate. Because once you have a plan and a model, and then you backtest that model, and you know that these particular formations, patterns, signals, time of day, day of week, um, breaker structure shows up, and it shows up in the way that you want it, right? All you have to do is ensure that those signals are correct and then execute, and trust that the outcome that occurs is the outcome that should follow your trading plan, right? If it doesn't, that's fine. When you're doing math problems, you don't focus on the emotional state to determine how to solve them. You just follow steps in the process and find a solution, and then double check to ensure your accuracy. And when you were in school, did you not work while you were hungry and do well in class regardless? Did you work while you were sad and still do well in class regardless? Or even broken hearted and still do well in math class regardless, right? Then what's the difference between that and following the trading process? Again, the one caveat is money, but you have to detach yourself from the cash. And that's the only way that you'll be able to focus on modifying your behavior and refining your process, right? It's more about what you should stop doing than what you should do, right? Successful people do less of the bad habits that you have and do more of the good habits, right? But they more cut out the bad habits and just leave the good ones, because we all know what we should do, but we add things that make us, regress or stagnate, right? So stop constantly scrutinizing and investigating your psychological makeup. Stop taking actions based on how you feel emotionally and follow a plan. Stop taking psychology and mindset information from random people on the internet and focus on ideas from experts or other vetted traders. Stop trading outside of your model and stop reinventing the wheel every single time you have a losing week, right? Consider what a losing trader would do and do the opposite, right? That's Charlie Munger's inversion process. It's pretty good. Um, I put this tweet here to say, to be consistently profitable, it takes one fractal, one model, one pair, one session, one risk plan, and ruthless execution, right? Because there's nothing else to this once you have this. And then all that changes is that you can just replace your fractal or a model to have a different outcome. But change a pair session, all this just gives you a different outcome. So can you imagine taking different models and different fractals every single time you trade? How would you track that? how would you know what to do, right? So that's been focusing on emotions leads to self-destruction. Let me know if this helped you and if I could make this any clearer. This is video one in the series of about seven. Um, See you next time.